Alright guys, Bitcoin recently bounced off a major trendline support and now pushed straight up into another major trendline resistance. And this next move for sure won't end good for most people. Let me show you exactly what's going on. And by the way, please ignore this random wick down here, it only shows up on this specific chart and it's not a real move. Just wanted to mention that before we continue. So in the previous video, we talked about the short-term trendline resistance that Bitcoin had just broken to the upside. And we said that the previous time Bitcoin broke a trendline like this, it ended up sweeping the high, and that the same thing was likely to happen again. And at that point, Bitcoin was also trading right below the daily level right here. And we said that if it broke above it, new highs in the short term were pretty much inevitable, especially with all the major levels stacked above. And what you're going to see right here is that this is exactly what played out. Bitcoin broke clean above the daily level and pushed straight up through the liquidity at the recent high and swept all those shorts that were stacked above. And right now, we are seeing a reaction back to the downside. And as I told you yesterday, I said I would be firing a brand new short position around these levels. And right when I woke up, that's exactly what I did. I entered a short at 80,000 US dollars. Even though I still think Bitcoin could potentially push a little higher from here, and I'll tell you exactly why in a second. Now let me show you something very important. If we zoom out, what you're going to see is that Bitcoin is right now trading very close to the top of the major ascending channel we have been talking about for so long. And every single time Bitcoin has reached this area, in the past it has seen a major rejection back to the downside. But here's the thing, Bitcoin got pretty close to the top of the channel, but didn't hit the projected top just yet. And even though my short is now already in a nice profit, that is exactly why I'm still a bit cautious with the position. I might need to reshort a little higher up if Bitcoin does come up and hit that level properly, or just add to my current position and bring my entry up. We will see how it plays out, but I'm definitely not trying to miss this major trade around these levels. So yes, Bitcoin did sweep the liquidity level at the recent high. And let's also pull up the liquidation heat map on the 2-week chart. What you're going to see is that all those major short liquidations that were sitting above the recent high have just been swept. Hundreds of millions of dollars in shorts got liquidated on this last push up. And if we zoom in a little to the 3-day chart, things look even more interesting. What you're going to see is that the liquidations are no longer stacking above the high, they're actually now stacked below the current price around 77.5 thousand US dollars. So that is now definitely some kind of a magnet for the price, and it is now sitting below us, not above us. And before I continue with everything else I have to show you in this video, I would really appreciate it if you guys are finding this helpful to like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications so you don't miss the next one. Alright, let's get back to the video. And on top of that, we now have multiple bearish divergences forming right at this exact area. If we open up the MACD on the 12-hour time frame, what you're going to see is a potential bearish divergence forming as Bitcoin makes higher highs but the MACD makes lower highs. Another bearish divergence right at this resistance. And it doesn't end here. On the 12-hour RSI, we are also potentially forming a bearish divergence right now. And even on the daily RSI, we could be looking at one if Bitcoin gets rejected here. So we now have multiple bearish divergences or potential bearish divergences stacking up across multiple time frames, all happening exactly where Bitcoin just hit a major level. And one more thing, Bitcoin actually has an unfilled CME gap sitting right at around 77.80 thousand US dollars that was left open over the weekend. And as you know, more than 90% of CME gaps eventually get filled, especially when the price difference is this small. So that is yet another reason to expect Bitcoin to potentially come back down from here and fill that gap. However, if Bitcoin does manage to break back below the daily level, my next targets are lower. The first one I'm watching is the golden pocket at around 77,000 US dollars. If we take the Fib retracement and drag it from this swing low to the recent high, what you're going to see is that the golden pocket falls right below the liquidation cluster we just talked about at 77.5 thousand US dollars. So Bitcoin reaching that level, the golden pocket, would also mean sweeping all those liquidations on the way down. which makes this whole area even more likely to get hit. And that is exactly where my first take profit is going to be if Bitcoin does break down from here. Then the next major area is the two liquidity levels sitting close together at 73.6 thousand and 73.3 thousand US dollars. And if we take the anchored VWAP and anchor it at the exact low at 65,000 US dollars, what you're going to see is that the VWAP is coming right between them. So three things stacking up at the same area, two liquidity levels and the anchored VWAP. That makes this whole zone a very strong target and a very important support for Bitcoin. And further below that, we have one more liquidity level all the way down at 70.4 thousand US dollars. And if we take the fib retracement and drag it from the bottom of this entire move to this recent high, what you're going to see is that the golden pocket lines up very well with that liquidity level. So that is another major target and a strong support level for Bitcoin further down. So that's where we are. Pump played out exactly as expected, shorts are in profit at 80,000 US dollars, and the bearish stack is building up fast. As always, this is not financial advice, and manage your risk. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.